Shalom. First, I'd like to give all praises unto Yahweh Shem Yahushai and double honors unto the apostles and elders of GreatMillStone, and honors to you brothers out there in the highways and the byways teaching this word in all sincerity and in truth. And I just want to play this clip from the UKIP interview with the UKIP leader Paul Nuttall. Now, you have to remember that even though UKIP is a lesser party, pretty much all these political parties, the heads and the top officials within these parties are always insiders, okay? They're always insiders, and you have to remember that everything that you see on TV is pre-planned by the Tavistock Institute of Psychological Operations. And what they're doing is they're having this guy, in response to the Manchester attack, pushing out ultimately what they're going to do, but they have him doing it. And what they're going to do is then they're going to gauge the people's response to the things that he's suggesting or is saying could be solutions to this terrorist problem. And by that, they can gauge how ready the people are to accept it and where to go from here, which I already know pretty much they're only a couple terrorist attacks away from completely, the complete removal of human rights, free speech, and all that, okay? Chipping terrorists, all that. Now listen to to what this guy says. He's going to mention tagging terrorists. He's going to mention internment for terrorist suspects, not even being a terrorist, just to be suspected of being a terrorist. You should be tagged, detained, okay? Death penalty if you are a terrorist. Listen to what he's actually saying, and he specifically says in this interview, oh no, this is not for now, because they know based upon the current environment these things wouldn't be accepted. But he said, what, in the future, when things get more out of control, which they will do on purpose, they're going to set up these false flags. So just listen to this interview and you won't see the psyop right here. And I'm sure if you go to the comment board and you on social media, they're gauging how people are reacting to this information. It's a psyop.
You've also said that you'd like to see the death penalty returned for terrorists and child killers.
Well, that's my own personal view. That isn't UKIP policy.
You recently said you're also okay with waterboarding as an interrogation technique.
Now, I used the example of when I was talking about if we were in a situation where there was an immediate terrorist attack on the horizon and we had to get information which would save people's lives in this country, then I would I would use harsh methods.
Okay with. Do you know these are almost never the circumstances in which torture is used? That's not what waterboarding has been used for. It's been used to get intelligence and information out of people. Yes. Are you in favour of that?
No, and I didn't say that if you listen to the whole interview.
No, I'm just finding out if you were.
No, I'm not.
Do you agree with another of your MEPs, Roger Helmer? He says that it's, quote, time to think the unthinkable and just lock up suspected terrorists.
Which that's eventually where it's going to get to pre-crime. But like I said, there's still more work to be done. There's still more false flags to be brought forth.
Well, look, when you read this morning that there is a suspected 23,000 jihadis who could be living amongst us, obviously...
That number increased from, in a matter of a week, that number increased from 3,500 to 23,000. It's just ridiculous, man.
MI5 are stretched to capacity at this present moment in time. I think we've got to look at ways of ensuring that our people are safe, whether that is a return to... Hold on, let me finish. Whether that is a return to control orders, whether that is tagging these people, or who knows, tagging in the future...
Tagging, that's your RFID chip, which ultimately they're going to implant suspected terrorists and ultimately all citizens with the chip, okay? This is where it's heading, all right? You got to start somewhere.
Internment.
A return to internment.
Well, look, we're in a situation now where we're being told that there are 23,000 possible suspects on our street who want to do us harm. Now, if you consider that it costs roughly £1 million a year to have 24/7 surveillance on these people, we're talking a vast amount of money. Maybe, Andrew, we're just living in a different society now. Now, I'm not saying now is the time to return to this, but I wouldn't...
Basically, what they're trying to show you is we no longer live in a society where you can have human rights and these things. Human rights, free speech, and all these things are now a danger to society, because they're protecting the terrorists, which is such a danger. Which, when you look at the statistics, if I could get out, I'll see if I can get. You look at it statistically, the amount of people in Western Europe that have actually died from terrorist attack is very negligible. More people die from like car accidents and McDonald's and bee stings than actually die from terrorists. But they're willing to coerce you into giving up your human rights, your free speech, okay, based upon the threat of terrorism, when you're the chances of you dying in a terrorist attack is fucking next to nil. You got more chance of getting mugged on the street and stabbed to death. You got more chance of you know what I'm saying, all kinds of causes of death. All right, if you do look at the abortion rate in Western Europe, man, there's more children being killed, infinitely more children being killed by abortion and terrorism. You know, just check the statistics.
Out in the future.
Right, so you wouldn't rule out internment, perhaps for thousands of British citizens. You are aware that when internment was introduced in Northern Ireland in 1971, it was the biggest recruiting sergeant for the IRA ever. Yeah, you do know that.
But look, what I'm saying is, in the future, and not now.
How many times has he said in the future? Not now, in the future.
Now, maybe we can tag these people now. Maybe we can return to control orders. But, you know, I wouldn't take anything off the table in the future. Because, as I say, look, unless we get a grip on this, what happened in Manchester the other night, which is part of my constituency, could become commonplace. And that's the last thing we want to see.
And as he said, unless they get a grip on it, which they're not going to get a grip on it on purpose. You know what I'm saying? It's the problem, reaction, solution. Let me just pause this. Right, I just wanted to show you what I just mentioned. All right, this is the statistic for death by terrorist attacks in Western Europe from 1970 to 2015. Now look at the last 15 years. How many people have actually died from terrorist attacks? This is in the whole of Western Europe, man. It's negligible. It's insignificant, and that shows you the power of the media. You know, to hype things up, man. You got literally more people actually get killed from like gang violence and stuff like this than from terrorism. You know what I mean, come on, man. Cancer. You know, the list goes on. You know, car accidents, the list goes on and on and on. But you know, the devil gonna do what the devil gonna do, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just how it is. That's how this devil operates. Like I said, that whole interview was straight out of the Tavistock Institute, and they're gonna gauge where the minds of the people are and use that information to go ahead with further psychological operations and false flags to reach their intended goal, which is totalitarianism and the ability to cull members of the society which they deem undesirable, which really begins with you Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, man. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. But you heard him mention tagging people, which, you know, the tagging has gone far ahead than what it was before. Remember, you had that Saudi inventor that invented that RFID chip for prisoners, basically, that have a cyanide pill, you know, inside. So, you know, they got options, man. It's more technological now than just putting a tag on someone's foot. Now you can implant that into them and read their vital signs and know their heart rate and know where they are, all that stuff. So let's get Revelations 13 and 12, because we know where they're heading. Okay, we know what their agenda is. We know what the end goal is that these devils want to achieve. That's why we know we're not fooled by their little games. It's Revelations 13 and 12. You know, sorry, let me just get straight to the point. 13 and 16. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. So ultimately, right now they're pushing it like, yeah, we need to get these terrorists chipped and all that. But ultimately, they're going to want everyone to be chipped. You know, everyone's going to be a suspect in that day. It's just some are going to be more of a suspect than others, man. They're going to want everyone to be chipped, okay? That's where it is heading. And that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. All right, so that's where they're heading. Okay, they're also preparing to take these powers to hand out the death penalty, man. You know, on a lot of you Jakes, man. And that's going to be the time of Jacob's trouble, which we always speak about, man. The powers of the state, the sword of which is the state, is going to be thoroughly used against you so-called Negroes, Spanish, and Native American Indians. If you think this is all about Islamic extremism, then you're a fool. You have no idea. All right, you playing checkers. This is chess. They're using Islamic extremism as the catalyst, as the Trojan horse to gain the powers they require and the justification they require to cull. Okay, which Lord will, we're gonna get into that at some point this week, man. All right, and their main target's gonna be those of you who are, you know, Hebrew Israelites, man. That time is coming. So let me just get Jeremiah 30. I'm gonna get out of here because I gotta go to bed, man. Gotta go to the plantation in the morning. Jeremiah 30 and 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. And the ones that are going to be saved ultimately out of this time to come is really the elect. 2/3 of you Israelites, you're going to be caught up in that chip. You're going to be caught up in them stormtroopers and the race wars and the famine and all this evil which is going to descend upon this society. So with that, I'm going to say shalom.